Hey folks, my name is Dale Davidson, the Dear VA Guy. Thank you for tuning in today. Today we're going to be talking about potential cuts to VA compensation. Now this is a follow-up to my previous video. The government is trying to reduce your VA benefits. And by the way, that particular video that I just mentioned had over 95,000 views. So thank you so very much to my audience. Appreciate you. All right, so got a lot of comments on that video. Some of them really good, some of them not so good. I don't mind constructive criticism, but a lot of them center around this, my whole purpose of fear-mongering or trying to scare people. No. That is not what I was trying to do. My sole purpose for all of these videos that I'm doing is to help educate everyone as to, number one, what's happening in Washington, D.C. and how those politicians and bureaucrats can affect your disability benefits, but then also tell you what kind of disability benefits there are out there and how best to qualify them. So this is about education. It's not about scaring people or fear-mongering. So get that out of your head, okay? Now, the CBO is just giving Congress options on how to reduce the deficit. As of yesterday, I think it was about $16 trillion, so that's a lot of money to be paid back. And many want to blame veterans programs for the deficit spending, but these folks don't recognize a couple of facts here. And facts do matter, okay? There was $132 billion spent, or 11% increase in mandatory spending programs such as Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I'm not criticizing that. Look, I agree that we need to be taking care of our seniors and for their medicines and Social Security and all of that, and Medicaid too, so I'm not criticizing that. But we have a $90 billion, or 41% increase in the net interest payments on our $16 million or $16 trillion debt, okay? There's about a $53 billion or 75% increase in the Department of Education programs. That was mainly due to the cost of extending the pause for student loan payments. Look, students, if you're out there getting a education in classical guitar or whatever wild major there may be out there and you can't find a job, that's on you, okay? Pay your student loans back. Don't put it on the taxpayers. Okay, there's $29 billion to the FDIC. Remember the Silicon Valley Bank that went belly up a couple of weeks ago? That's to help bail that out. So, over the past 5 years though, let's look at the VA compared to all of these budget increases. Over the past 5 years, the VA has handled an average of about a little over 5 million veterans cases. That's an average increase of 4.3% per year, with an average payout of $19,439 per month. Now that's an average increase of only 6.5% per year. Now for survivors or dependents, okay, the VA only handled an average of 440,000 cases. Sorry, my tongue's twisting today, which is an average increase of 3.4% per year, with an average payout of $18,400. That 5-year average increase is only almost 7%. So you can see, yes, that's a lot of money to be paying out for veterans and surviving spouses, but it pales in comparison to net interest on debt, the Department of Education, all of those other expenses that I have mentioned. So blaming veterans benefits programs for the deficit is just plain dishonest. Okay, and luckily the VA secretary is on the side of veterans. Okay, make no mistake. There is a push to reduce VA disability payments or to make it tougher to qualify. One reduction that has been given a lot of attention is to make VA compensation a means-based test, meaning wealthier vets' benefits may be reduced or even eliminated. Now, in my previous video, The Government is Trying to Reduce Your Benefits, I discussed the impact of this means-based testing. And let me explore this a little bit more today. Okay. So under the CBO report, and this is a report, just recommendations, for every $2 of gross household income, total gross household income, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, disability compensation would decrease by $1. So under the phase out, veterans whose gross total household income was $170,000 or higher, then their disability benefit would be reduced or even eliminated. Okay? Despite the fact that they are injured and have a disability. Now, I've got some heartache about that. Number one is that there's no adjustment to the income threshold for household size. When I talked about total household income, I'm talking about the income for the veteran spouse, and if you've got children living in your household, their income is included also. Your spouse makes $100,000 and you've got 2 kids and they're making $40,000 a piece, you're at $180,000. Boy, then your disability benefits have just been cut out. That's not fair. So the CBO proposal is so wrong in so many ways, but why? Okay. Now, number one, it fails to take into account the cost of living in different areas of the country. For instance, it costs more to live in Los Angeles or Miami, Florida, Honolulu, Hawaii. Okay? Now, it's cheaper to live in places like Hickory, North Carolina, Green Bay, Wisconsin, although it's too cold there, or Huntsville, Alabama. Okay? So they don't take into account the disparity in cost of living in those areas. Now, even the IRS, when you're dealing with them on offers and compromise, they take into disparities of the cost of living in different areas of the country, but not the VA. And according to researchers at Stony Brook University, it costs somebody with a disability about 28 to 30% more to live for the same standard of living for you and I. Okay? Now, there's some hidden cost of living with a disability, and we just don't see that a lot. I mean, if you're not looking for it, you're not going to recognize it. So, for instance, your housing is going to be more expensive, and that's mainly due to physical alterations to the home. For instance, you might need a ramp, pull bars, lower the kitchen cabinets, etc., things of that nature, in order to make it livable for you and your disability. Okay, renting is not always an ideal option because you'd have to make these renovations in order to physically live there. Maybe you need a chairlift installed in your van. Transportation issues. And if you live in a small town, those services are probably not available. Shopping for food and groceries, having those delivery, like an instant cart. If you have a special diet, like if you got celiac disease and you need special dietary restrictions, all that costs more. Just daily necessities, convenience fees, Instacart, other delivery fees, Amazon, whatever. Okay, you've got all of these. I know Amazon Prime. Okay, but you've got all of these different fees that, if you're not able to get out and get those things delivered, you got to pay somebody to bring them to you. Okay, you have your accessibility devices such as canes, rollators, electric wheelchairs, prosthetic limbs, all of those things. Insurance doesn't always cover that. You think it does, but it doesn't always cover that. Daily in-home care services, personal care services, house cleaning, cooking, all of that kind of stuff. And one of the things that we all take for granted is self-care versus medical care. We all understand medical care, but what about going to a spa for the day? I like to go to a infrared sauna, but somebody with a disability would not be able to enjoy that, okay? So it's often out of the question for those who have service-connected disabilities. But my number one reason why the CBO is just wrong in all respects is that veterans with service-connected disabilities were injured on the job. Okay, they were injured while serving our country. Sometimes they were injured by the enemy, but oftentimes they were injured by our own government, and they deserve every dime they can get. Disability compensation is a monetary benefit paid to veterans who are determined by the VA to be disabled by an injury or illness that occurred in service, okay? And it's a monthly disability payment, okay? And it varies with the degree of injury, just like Social Security disability or workers' comp. For the civilians, your workers' comp depends upon your severity of your disability, okay? Now, veterans, you put your lives and your health on the line to keep us safe, okay? We don't need to abandon you now that you need our help, okay? That's why these videos are so important. We need to get the word out to our Congress people and to the world that, hey, look, our veterans and their dependents are important to us, because without you, quite frankly, we might be speaking German or Japanese or some other foreign language, okay? So when you come home from your service, you still face long-term health risk. If you came home from Vietnam, you face health risk of Agent Orange, exposure to Agent Orange. So your cancers like prostate cancer, okay? If you are over in the Middle East, you have burn pits. So you've got cancers and respiratory diseases. You're in any kind of combat situation, in the demilitarized zone in Korea or Vietnam, wherever it may have been, PTSD. That happens to you when you get home. We don't need to abandon you. We need to take care of you, okay? You deserve your disability pay. Yes, there are veterans who are worse off than you. There's always going to be somebody who's worse off than you. And they need their disability compensation just as bad as you need yours, okay? So getting VA disability doesn't take away benefits from other deserving veterans. You all deserve your disability comp for your service-connected injuries. Because why? Because you served our country and you kept us free. So just because you left active duty years ago doesn't mean that you're not entitled to compensation for in-service connected injuries, okay? So as a disabled veteran, you may recognize, you say, well, I don't really need that benefit because there's other more deserving veterans out there. Or look at the public and the politicians are so against us. Don't think that way. Get that out of your mind. You served, you were injured, you deserve it, okay? You served, you were injured, and you deserve it. You shouldn't have a negative perceptions of receiving what you are entitled to. Thank you for watching today. I want you to click on this link here. It's where I discuss 24 different federal and state benefits that you may qualify for. You'll be surprised what's out there that's available to you. Whether most of them are for 100% disabled veterans, but there are some in there for you veterans who are only at 10%. So until next time, be blessed.